She slammed her palm on the counter so hard the tip jar jumped. I said, "I'm next." The cashier didn't even get to finish saying hi before Karen leaned in and screamed, "I don't stand in lines with random people." Then she twisted her head toward us like we were trash and yelled, "Move, now!" Nobody moved. The line was packed, tight shoulder to shoulder, and the air smelled like coffee and warm bread, but her voice cut through everything like an alarm. I was 2 steps from the register, holding my little paper number, trying not to spill the drink tray I was carrying for my kid. Karen's eyes locked on me like she picked me as her target on purpose. She pointed at my tray and barked, You're blocking me. Step aside." I didn't even answer. I just looked at the cashier and said calm, "I'm next. I've been waiting." That's when she snapped. Her face went red and she shouted, "He touched me!" She threw her own shoulder back like she got hit, even though there was a full arm's length between us. People gasped. A guy behind me muttered, "No, he didn't." Karen spun on him too and screamed, "Mind your business." Then she pulled out her phone so fast it looked practiced, like she'd done this before. She tapped her screen and said loud enough for everyone, "Hello? Police? I need someone here now. A man assaulted me." She stared straight at me while she said it, like she wanted me to panic, like she wanted me to beg. The cashier's hands started shaking. "Ma'am, please, we have cameras," she said softly. Karen laughed. Not a normal laugh, a mean one. "Cameras? Sweetie, I'm on the HOA board. Those cameras belong to us." Then she pointed at a small sign near the pastries that said, "Lakeview Community Clubhouse, members only area beyond this point." Karen lifted her chin and said, "This is private property. I can ban anyone I want." People in line looked at each other like, "Wait, HOA? In a cafe?" That's when I noticed something I didn't notice before. Karen wasn't here for coffee. She kept looking past the counter, toward the side door that led into the clubhouse office, like she was waiting for someone to come out, like this whole scene was meant to pull attention away from that door. I took one slow step forward, still holding my ticket, and said, "If you're so important, why are you shaking?" Her smile slipped for half a second, just half. Then she got louder to cover it up. "Don't talk to me. You're trespassing. I'm having you removed." She turned to the cashier and snapped, "Call your manager, right now. Tell him the board is here." The cashier reached under the counter and pressed a button. Somewhere in the back, a bell rang once. Karen smirked like she just pressed a different kind of button too. Then her phone speaker crackled, and a voice said, "Ma'am, stay on the line. Officers are on the way." Karen stared at me and whispered, real slow, like a Fred, "You're about to learn a lesson in America." I leaned in just enough for only her to hear and said, "Yeah, so are you."
Karen crossed her arms and stood right in front of me, blocking the counter like she owned it. "Don't move," she said, loud and slow, like she was talking to a criminal. "Police are coming." The whole place felt tight now. No one talked, no phones out, just eyes moving between her and me. My kid tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Dad, can we go?" I bent a little and said, "Not yet." Karen heard that and smiled. "Good," she said. "Teach him what happens when rules are broken." 2 minutes passed, felt longer. She kept pacing, flipping her hair, telling the line how she runs this place and how people like me always try something. Then the side door opened. A man stepped out, late 30s maybe, calm face, plain black shirt, no badge, no name tag. Karen turned fast. Finally, she snapped, "You, manager, this man assaulted me and refused to follow HOA rules. I want him removed now." The manager didn't answer her. He didn't even look at her first. He looked at the cashier. "You okay?" She nodded, eyes wide. Then he looked at the cameras above us, one by one. Then he looked at me, just me. "Sir," he said, "did you touch her?" I shook my head. "No." Karen laughed again. Of course he'd lie. The manager took a step closer to her, still calm. "Ma'am, this is not HOA property. This cafe leases the space. Public access. You know that." Her face stiffened. "That lease can be changed," she said. "One call." He tilted his head. "Funny," he said, "because the owner signed it this morning." Karen blinked, just once. Then she snapped, "You're stalling. Police are coming." Right on cue, sirens outside. Karen straightened her back like a queen. "Perfect," she said. "I want him arrested." The door opened again. 2 officers walked in. Karen rushed toward them. "Thank God," she cried, pointing at me. "That man assaulted me. I want him gone." One officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, slow down." The other looked around. "We'll need statements." Karen crossed her arms again. "I already gave mine." The officer turned to me. "Sir." I looked at him and said, "Steady. I didn't touch her. There are cameras." Karen rolled her eyes. "Fake cameras," she said fast. Too fast. The manager spoke again. "They're real and live." Silence hit her face like a slap. The officer nodded. "Let's take a look." Karen stepped back.
"That's not necessary," she said. The officer looked at her. "It is." As they walked toward the back screen, Karen leaned close to me and whispered, shaking now, "You should have just moved." I looked at her and said, "You should have just waited."
The screen flickered on behind the counter. Black and white. No sound. Just clear angles. The officer leaned in. The manager didn't say a word. Neither did I. Karen tried to laugh it off. "Those cameras don't show everything," she said, waving her hand. But the screen showed enough. It showed the line. It showed Karen walking past everyone. It showed her slamming the counter. It showed me standing still. Then it showed her throwing her shoulder back by herself. The officer paused the video. He looked at Karen. "Ma'am," he said, slow, "this shows no contact." Karen's face changed. Not angry now. Tight. She crossed her arms again. "He threatened me," she said, off camera. The officer sighed. "Anyone hear that?" A man in line spoke up. "Nope." Another voice said, "She's lying." Karen spun around. "You people don't belong here," she yelled. "This is my community." That's when she made her next move, a bad one. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded paper. She slapped it on the counter. "Here," she said. "HOA violation notice. This man is banned from all community property." The officer picked it up, read it. His eyebrow lifted. "This notice isn't signed," he said. Karen snapped. "I can sign it." She grabbed a pen and signed it right there, shaking. The manager finally spoke. "You just forged a document," he said. Karen's head snapped toward him. "I have authority," she screamed. The officer looked at her hard now. "Ma'am, do you hold any law enforcement role?" She hesitated, just a second too long. "I work with them," she said. The officer stepped closer. "Working with is not the same as being." Karen's voice dropped. "You don't understand who you're dealing with." Then the manager did something unexpected. He reached into his pocket and placed a small card on the counter. Not fast, calm. "Officer," he said, "before you continue, you should know something." The officer glanced at the card. His posture changed, straightened. "Yes, sir," he said. Karen noticed, her mouth opened slightly. "What is that?" she asked. The manager looked at her for the first time and said, quiet but sharp, "It's proof that this place, and the land under it, is no longer under HOA control." Karen laughed, weak. "That's impossible." He met her eyes. "It became official this morning." The room felt heavy. Karen's phone buzzed in her hand. She looked down. Her face went pale. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "No, that can't be right."
Karen stepped back like the floor moved under her. "You're lying," she said, but her voice didn't have the bite anymore. The officer asked, "Ma'am, do you want to sit down?" She snapped, "No." Then her phone rang again. She ignored it. The manager didn't. He nodded toward it and said, "You should answer." She shook her head. "I don't take orders from you." The officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am, at this point, we need your full name." Karen froze. "Why?" she asked. "Because," the officer said, "you filed a false report." The word false hung in the air. Karen's eyes darted around the room, searching for backup that wasn't coming. People were filming now, not hiding it anymore. She grabbed her phone and answered it, turning away. "What?" she hissed. Her face changed mid-call, red to white. "What do you mean removed?" she whispered. Her hand started shaking. "That was my position." She listened, then louder. "You can't do that without a vote." A pause, then a small, broken, "Yes, I understand." She hung up slow. She turned back to us. "This isn't over," she said. The officer held out his hand. "Your ID, ma'am." She laughed, sharp and empty. "For what?" He replied. "Impersonating authority, forgery, and filing a false police report." Her mouth opened. No sound came out. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was trying to figure out who I was. I stepped forward just enough and said, "I told you, you should have waited." Her shoulders dropped. The officer gently took her arm. Not rough, just firm. "Ma'am, you're being detained." Karen screamed again, but this time it didn't scare anyone. It echoed and fell flat. As they walked her toward the door, she shouted, "You don't even know him." The manager answered calmly, "We do." Outside, the door closed. The noise died. The cafe breathed again. The officer turned back to me. "Sir," he said, "thank you for staying calm." I nodded. My kid squeezed my hand. The cashier smiled, shaking. And that's when the manager leaned close and said something that changed everything.
I stepped up to the counter, but my hands were still shaking a little. Not scared, just full of everything that almost went wrong. The cashier took my order like nothing happened, but her voice was soft now. "Coffee and sandwich, right?" I nodded. Behind me, people started talking all at once, laughing, whispering. Someone said, "She really thought she owned the place." Another said, "Not today." The manager stayed near the door, watching through the glass as the officers talked to Karen outside. She was pointing, yelling, still trying to control the story. Then one officer shook his head. Another took out cuffs. The crowd inside went quiet again when they saw that. Phones went up. Karen saw the cameras and panicked. She tried to pull away. That didn't help her. The manager walked back and leaned on the counter. "You okay?" he asked me. I said, "Yeah." He looked at my kid. "You?" My kid nodded. The manager smiled. "Good." Then he added, low voice, "She's done this before." I looked at him. "Here?" He shook his head. "Different places. Same act." My food came out. I reached for my wallet. The cashier pushed it back. "It's on the house." I tried to say no. She said, "Please." I didn't argue. As I turned to leave, the manager spoke again. "One more thing," he said. I stopped. He nodded toward the window. Karen was now sitting in the back of the patrol car, makeup ruined, mouth still moving. She thought power meant noise, he said. She forgot about proof. I opened the door and stepped outside. Cold air hit my face. An officer nodded at me as I passed. Karen saw me. Her eyes burned. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just walked past her, free. And behind me, the cafe door closed, locking her chaos on the other side.
I thought it was over. I really did. I walked a few steps down the sidewalk, my kid sipping his drink, both of us quiet. Then I heard my name. Not yelled, called. I turned. One of the officers was walking toward me. Karen was still in the car behind him, watching like a hawk. My stomach tightened for a second. The officer stopped and said, "Sir, we need you back inside for one more thing." Karen smiled through the window. A small smile, like she still believed she had one last card to play. Inside, the manager was standing near the counter with another man I hadn't seen before. Older, clean suit, calm eyes. He didn't look angry, he looked tired. The officer said, "This gentleman is with the property group." The man nodded at me. "I'm here because of her," he said, not even saying Karen's name. "She filed a complaint this morning, said you were trespassing on community land." I felt my kid grip my hand again. The man pulled out a folder and opened it. "She didn't know," he continued, "that the land transfer closed before noon." He slid a paper across the counter. My name was on it. I blinked. "What is this?" I asked. He looked at me and said, "It's the updated deed access form." The manager smiled slightly. "He's the reason the HOA lost control of this space," he said. Karen started screaming from outside. You could hear her through the glass. "That's him. He did this." The officer didn't even turn around. The man in the suit closed the folder and said, "She tried to stop the sale. She failed." Then he looked at me and added, "You didn't just stand in line today. You stood on your own land." The words hit harder than I expected. Karen saw my face change. Her smile vanished. For the first time, she understood something was very wrong.
Karen lost it. She started kicking the back door of the patrol car, screaming that everyone was corrupt, that the papers were fake, that she would end all of this. One officer opened the door just enough to warn her. She didn't listen. That was her last mistake. They took her out, turned her around, and this time the cuffs stayed on. No more talking, no more shouting orders, just metal clicking shut. People outside stopped to watch. Someone whispered, "Is that the HOA lady?" Another voice said, "Yeah, not anymore." The man in the suit watched quietly, then turned to me. "She used fear to control people," he said. "Today she picked the wrong one." I didn't feel powerful. I felt calm, like a weight I didn't know I was carrying just fell off. The officer came back in and said, "Sir, she's also being charged for trying to block a legal sale and threatening a minor." I felt my chest tighten. My kid looked up at me. "Am I in trouble?" he asked. I knelt down and said, "No, you're safe." Karen heard that. She twisted around and screamed my name again. The officer shut the door on her voice. The manager locked the cafe door for a moment and turned the sign to closed. Everyone inside clapped. Not loud, not wild, just steady, real. The manager looked at me and said, "You didn't raise your voice once." I shrugged. "Didn't need to." He smiled. "That's why she lost." Outside, the patrol car pulled away. Karen pressed her face to the glass as it moved, still trying to look strong. But she wasn't screaming now. She was quiet. And she was finally being taken somewhere she couldn't control. I held my kid's hand,
and walked back to the window. The cafe lights felt warmer, safer, and I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about a line anymore.
Later that evening, I stood on the same sidewalk, the noise gone, the rush over. My kid leaned against me, half asleep, cup empty. The cafe lights glowed behind us, steady and calm. The manager locked up and nodded at me before walking away. No big speech, no drama, just respect. I looked down at the ground for a second and smiled, because Karen was right about one thing. This was America, and here, shouting doesn't give you power. Papers do. Truth does. And staying calm when someone wants you to break, that's real strength. I didn't win because I yelled louder. I won because I knew where I stood. On my land, in my line, with my family safe beside me. And somewhere in the distance, a siren faded away, taking her fake power with it.